creating custom hotkeys can really speed up your work. So we'll look into how you can do that. You access the hotkey editor from Window, Settings and Preferences, and Hotkey Editor. And this is going to just take a second to load up. And here we have an editor. So we can, for instance, here just by default, just search for an application command. Let's say you want to have a hotkey for making a cube. You can now just search for cube. And now you have create a polygon cube. Now right next to it, you see there's a column here just called hotkey. And if you click here, you can now set a hotkey. So for this, we want this to be Alt-A. Now, again, these hotkeys here are completely arbitrary and the commands are also arbitrary. We aren't actually going to be setting one for the cube, at least not long term. But this is just an example. So it's saved now. And now hotkey settings have been saved. So awesome. Now if we hit Alt-A, boom, we have a cube. Can do the same thing for a sphere. Polygon sphere. And there we go. Goal is Alt-S. And you can also see here as well, whenever we have a conflict, it will tell you, hey, Alt set is already set to whatever command this is. Normally, this is fine if it's some obscure hotkey like this. Like this is a feature I've never ever used in my entire life. But you also want to be careful not to overwrite something too crazy. So I prefer to find hotkeys which are not conflicting with something else. For instance, if you now come from another software and you want to just set up all your hotkeys, I really recommend that you don't just import all of them or you set up all your hotkeys just mindlessly, because you might sometimes override very important hotkeys, such as changing the brush size or the move tool, whatever it might be. But in this case, let's just overwrite it. That's fine. And now we can do Alt-S and then we can create a sphere. So delete these two. So Alt-A to create a cube and Alt-S to create a sphere. So very quick and easy. We can also go into the hotkey here, search by, and we can set hotkey. And now we can, for instance, set something like W. What is the hotkey for W? And that depends entirely on what mode you're in. If you're, for instance, in the node editor, it's going to do one thing. If you're in animation editor, it's going to do another thing. If you're in the 3D editor, it's going to do another thing. So it really depends on the mode you're in, but this way you can actually see what's there. And now you can, for instance, use move the tool here, and now you can change the hotkey for that. For instance, you want to change the move UV tools hotkey to something else, maybe Shift W. Now you can do that, and there we go. We're not going to save and close this because I don't want to overwrite that, but a real nice and easy way of doing it. So if we kill the search here, we can now change the categories here. So now we can actually go into like a menu item, and then we can go through the different menus up here. So now it's set to modeling, and then we can go to edit mesh, and then we can set a hotkey, for instance, to bridge. So if we want to add a custom hotkey to bridge, we can do that. You can set this to B, whatever it is you want. So it's really fast and easy to set up your own custom hotkeys. We're not setting up all of my custom hotkeys, and we're really going to keep this series very vanilla. But if you want to have like a pretty effective modeling setup, you can look into the PDF which accompanies this tutorial, and you can see some of the hotkeys I've been setting up. Now we are going to be using a combination of marking menus, more on that later, and hotkeys in this series. But if you really want like an optimized modeling setup, I recommend that you go in and you set up a few hotkeys. Modeling becomes really, really fast that way, and there's no reason to waste time. So setting more hotkeys, awesome. Then you just make sure you hit save afterwards, and you can just save and close, and all your hotkeys will be stored. If you want to go back to complete defaults, you can go here to My Defaults. It automatically just duplicates the default Maya. So if you want to go back, you can just go back to My Defaults, and you can go between different spaces as well. You can also import your hotkey setup as well if you already have a hotkey setup.